Welcome into another edition of the bonus panel, the streaming panel of the Georgia Vote. Joining us once again, Maria Andrade, Democratic strategist, Jen Ryan, Republican strategist, Greg Bluestein, politics reporter at the AJC. If you were watching us on the Georgia Vote, you saw we just wrapped up quickly talking about this real kind of wrinkle in state politics and party realignment. Former and Republican Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, he has switched parties. He says he is now a Democrat. Let's start with you, Greg, partially because he made that announcement in an AJC column. You did a little bit of writing on the history of party switchers in Georgia, too. What does that tell us about Duncan's strategy here?
A mixed record. Most of the party switchers in Georgia are Democrats who switched to the Republican Party. There's fewer examples of the other way around.
And that switch was happening when the state itself was shifting into this kind of more modern era of more conservative politics.
Even Governor Sonny Perdue and Nathan Deal were former Democrats. So there's less of a track record for the other way around, especially more recently. We do know that Jeff Duncan has always been something of a maverick in the Republican Party. He wrote the GOP 2.0 book 4 or 5 years ago, advocating for a different path forward for Republicans. They spurned it and voted for Donald Trump again, which kind of started his transformation, accelerated his transformation into what we have now seen. He's talked about running as an independent. He's talked about running as a disillusioned Republican. Now we have him out there saying he'd run as a Democrat. He is the ultimate wild card in any race because he could run for governor.
Jen, I know you want to get in here. I want to stay with Greg for just a second, though, because I think the operative word was he would run as a Democrat. You've talked to him. Is he running?
He has left that door wide open. He has not ruled out anything. And it's hard to see what path he could have because, yes, he has high name recognition. Yes, he has popularity. Yes, he could raise a significant amount of national cash. At the same time, any Democrat on that ballot could say, he's the guy who supported anti-abortion restrictions. He's the guy who supported gun rights expansions and culture war legislation over the years. So he'd have to reconcile that. I know he's thinking about doing that already, but he'd have to answer some serious questions about his past support for significant conservative legislation.
Jen, Republicans, is the party sad to see Jeff Duncan go?
You call him a maverick. I think he has a relevancy crisis. You heard Maria say that he would have a steep hill to climb with Democrats, and quite frankly, the sentiment that he had to switch parties because he could not love his neighbor, I think will really leave some Republicans cold.
Mm-hmm. Maria, is there some block of maybe Democrats, maybe Republicans, maybe independent voters, swing voters? Georgia still has them, unlike a lot of, some battleground states, those ballot kind of splitters are hard to find. Georgia has a significant cohort of them. Is there some block of voters that might see what Duncan is doing and applaud it for, maybe as Greg would say, he's being a maverick and he's trying to, as he puts it, stick to what he believes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has space to talk to some people here, but I think at the end of the day, whether you're Republican or Democrat, the question becomes, is there an agenda behind what the switch, right? Is this someone who has been wanting to run for higher office, saw an opportunity and took it? And maybe that's not the case, but I do think he's going to have multiple conversations with people from all sides of the aisle.
It's an authenticity issue.
I could cut both ways, though. I imagine some people could say, hey, people evolve in their views, and now you are authentically being who you politically believe you are.
Whoever you say you are today.
Well, and this maybe is a prelude of some of the criticism that he would face if he did get into this race. Let's shift gears here and talk about another race. Let's talk about the Republican Senate primary. If you watched the Georgia Vote, you saw, and we can talk about it more here, but you saw this growing flashpoint between Derek Dooley, the newly announced Republican candidate for Senate. Most recently, he was a football coach, head football coach at Tennessee, and Congressman Mike Collins. Mike Collins saying that Derek Dooley isn't Trump enough, called him a never-Trumper. Dooley saying, hey, I do support the president. There's a third prominent candidate in this Senate race. That's Congressman Buddy Carter. He's raised a lot of money. He's pumped a lot of his own money into this campaign. I haven't heard as much from the Carter campaign recently on the political side of things. Obviously, we talked to him following what happened at Fort Stewart. That's his district. But in the campaign side of things, Greg, where do they sit right now?
And Zach, he doesn't want to be the forgotten candidate here, right?
And nor am I saying that he is, to be clear.
No, but he's fighting against that exact narrative because we are, the media and the voters are spending a lot more time between Derek Dooley and Mike Collins. Mike Collins and Buddy Carter are both fighting for that MAGA lane right now, but Mike Collins is far more associated with Donald Trump in many voters' minds, particularly because he was the sponsor of the Laken Riley Act. He's modeled his entire persona, in a sense, off of Donald Trump. Where Buddy Carter, he's lesser known in Metro Atlanta because of his district down in Southeast Georgia, and at the same time, he's just he predates Donald Trump in office, so he did not come to office in the same era as Donald Trump. So he's a different brand of politics. He also doesn't have this flurry of endorsements that Mike Collins just rolled out. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, a number of state and House legislative leaders, a number of big, frankly, some Brian Kemp financiers are backing Mike Collins. So we haven't seen the same list of endorsements. So right now, for Buddy Carter, the big concern is he doesn't want to be the other guy also running.
Right.
You touched on something I want to bring Jen in on here. You talk about Brian Kemp and President Trump. We have seen this story play out before in Georgia politics, where there is a rift between the two most powerful Republicans, certainly in Georgia politics, and some of those powerful Republicans in national Republican politics. Is this Senate primary, Jen, another indicator of a distancing or at least a gap between these two men?
I think that it is Derek Dooley's narrative to change. If I am Mike Collins, and yes, I want that narrative because I do think that nationally and probably statewide, if you put a very popular president head to head with a very popular governor, things will tilt towards the president's way.
I don't mean to interrupt, but do you think so? Because we have seen, I know when Governor Kemp was up for re-election, particularly following the 2020 election and all the pressure that the president put on him following his decision to certify those election results, a lot of people counted the governor out, and he came back strong.
Well, because it was Kemp defending his own record, and he has such a strong track record. This is not Brian Kemp. This is a Brian Kemp endorsed candidate, and so I do think it is incumbent on that candidate to make this about him and what he will do, rather than let this be a proxy between Donald Trump and Governor Kemp.
Do you think he'll succeed in getting that done?
I think the jury's still out.
The voters will decide.
That's right.
Maria, let's bring you in here. We're talking a lot about Republicans. Republicans have been on the hot seat a little bit today. John Ossoff, he's the incumbent. He doesn't have to worry about any of this stuff until the general election, but he's not just sitting on the sidelines. If you're advising him, if you were in his camp, what do you think his advisors are telling him right now? What's their plan?
To continue doing what he's doing. He's been doing rallies in all parts of the state. He's been on the ground talking to voters. He is really doing all the hard work, regardless of the fact that you can tell that Republicans right now the party is, there's a little bit of infighting within the party currently, and that might, even in a general, bring down a little bit of the turnout, right? So I think John Ossoff has a really good scenario here, but I think at the end of the day, he's continued to work. He's not taking anything for granted, and that says a lot about him.
The flip side of that, and this is something that, the chattering class, the press sometimes, Greg, we fall into this trap, but you look at this and you say, if there's a really competitive primary, that party is going to come out bruised. They're going to have to spend money and time and resources. They're going to damage each other, so whoever gets the nomination is a damaged candidate. On the flip side, you could say that candidate, whoever gets the nomination, is battle-tested. They are done the reps, they've done the interviews, they've done the stump speeches, they know what their mission and their message is. John Ossoff doesn't have to go through that right now, and that's the benefit of being an incumbent. But Greg, I wonder if you look at this Republican primary and think, yeah, it may be bruising, but whoever comes out will be stronger for it and a tougher challenge to John Ossoff.
And we've definitely seen both sides of that coin in 2020, 2021. Kelly Loeffler was damaged going into that epic runoff against Senator Raphael Warnock, where at the same time, Herschel Walker just a few years ago, he didn't have to face, he had opponents, but a lot of the top tier Republicans decided not to run for that race. He glided into the nomination and never really faced anything sort of like he faced against Senator Warnock just a few months later.
I said a moment ago, the voters will decide, and they do, and they should. Jen, I want your thoughts as we're closing up here. I had a Republican strategist texted me a while ago and said, this is in some ways a race for Donald Trump's endorsement. That's the big key thing in this primary race. Is that going to be the only decider? Is that what all three of these Senate candidates are vying for, chief among it?
Look, you cannot discount Donald Trump's popularity or his endorsement, but I do believe, again, like if we're talking about the Brian Kemp model, strong track record in every community, rural, suburban, metro Atlanta, strong fundraising numbers, staying on message, and talking to voters about issues they care about. I think that really does carry weight. It's the quality of the candidate, not just the endorsement.
Maria, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think it definitely is the quality of the candidate, and it has to do with who you are as a candidate. The interesting part, though, is there's definitely a fight between who's going to get that Trump endorsement, and it's who is out magging each other. And the real question here is, if Buddy Carter doesn't get that endorsement, is he going to have to change his logo and take out MAGA Warrior out of it? He's going to have to get a new branding team here. So yeah, I do think it comes down to the quality of the candidate, but the endorsements is going to be a key part as well.
Greg, 15 seconds. I want to give you the last word as you watch all of this. What's standing out to you as you look ahead to this, I don't want to say back half of campaign season, but what we're getting into now?
Well, it's fascinating to me that Trump hasn't endorsed anyone yet. We heard all this, he might endorse in the Senate race, he might endorse in the governor's race. No word from Trump yet, which speaks volumes about the field of candidates that's already evolving.
As always, in Georgia politics, so much to watch. Guys, thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us on the Georgia Votes streaming panel.